Most people have heard of the Redwoods, the largest and tallest trees on Earth. The giant sequoia of the Sierra Nevada is the largest tree on Earth, with a trunk diameter of up to at least 27 feet at chest height and a volume of up to at least 52,500 cubic feet. The coast redwood of the California coast is the tallest, with the largest living specimen being 380 feet tall and past ones surpassing 400 feet. They are also very long-lived, with maximum lifespans of at least 2,200 years for the coast redwood and 3,400 for the giant sequoia. The third species, the dawn redwood, is more obscure. It is a living fossil, nearly unchanged for over 50 million years. It was known only from fossils until it was rediscovered in China in the 1940s. It is a deciduous conifer and sheds its needles in the fall. Unfortunately, all the ancient specimens were destroyed for farmland hundreds of years ago, so we do not know its full potential in size or age. But we do know that it can grow up to 135 feet tall and 6 feet thick at chest height in 70 years, and the remains of trunks up to 26 feet thick have been found buried in China. I believe it will one day rival the other two species in size and age. What fewer people know is that all three species can and do grow in Utah. They have not been wild since before the Ice Ages, but people have successfully planted them, and many have thrived. You've probably seen some, but you may not have recognized what they were. Most people assume that they cannot survive Utah's winters, but as you can see, this is untrue. Since few people are aware of this, they rarely plant redwoods in Utah, despite them being, in my and many other people's opinions, the finest landscape trees in the world. My goal is to document all the redwoods in Utah, spread awareness about them, and to increase their numbers. I myself have planted and am caring for quite a few redwoods of all three species here in Utah. I hope that many more people will do the same. In this non-fiction documentary, we will be surveying Utah's redwoods. It's winter in Utah, and snow covers the trees. I make sure the weight of the snow does not break them. The dawn redwoods are bare of needles. They are the most cold-hardy, being able to survive down to minus 25 degrees Fahrenheit, or hardiness zone 4B. The giant sequoias get heavy snow in their home of the Sierra Nevada, and are hardy to minus 10 degrees, or zone 6A. The coast redwoods are hardy to 0 degrees, or zone 7A. As most of the Wasatch Front is in zone 7, they are at the edge of their range, which is why they are a new introduction and I have no large specimens to show. They can survive, but not all do, so I recommend planting cold-hardy cultivars. If they become a self-sustaining population, living on the edge of their cold hardiness creates the conditions for the species to adapt. I also ensure that each tree I plant is properly flagged and labeled. As spring arrives and the snow melts, the trees wake up for the growing season. This is the time of year when it's best to plant new trees. Dawn redwood is the deciduous conifer. It's the fastest growing redwood. I planted it in April 2020 when it was about 4 feet tall. It's about maybe 11 feet tall now in 2024.
Okay, what kind's this?
This is a Dawn Redwood.
This is a good spot for it?
Yeah. In China, their original name means water fir. So hopefully in a couple of years, this one here will be as big as the ones we just saw down there. So, like I said, it's the fastest growing redwood. Once this establishes, it'll take off like a weed. Spring is warming up. Next, it's time to head south to the Pine Valley Mountains in between Cedar City and St. George to plant some friends for a very special tree. This is the largest redwood and the largest giant sequoia in the state of Utah. It was planted in 1933 or 1934 by Walter Cotton from the University of Utah as part of an experiment to see what would grow in this area. As of 2019, it is 5 feet thick at chest height and 118 feet tall. By the end of the 21st century, it will probably be the largest tree in Utah. This is Celta Sophie. It's a cold hardy coast redwood from either Germany or Poland. Planting all the coast redwoods fairly close together because that's what they like. Shout out to Michael Dunford for letting us use his shovel. There's a cone right there from the big one. There we go. Now I better take these plastic holders off. You don't want to leave these here. They'll strangle the trunk once it grows. So I'm going to put some biodegradable twine instead. Right over left, twist. Left over right, twist. All right. Oh yeah, nice soft ground here. This is what we like to see. Oh yep, moist at the bottom, that's good. Make sure I have some loose soil underneath it. Now, it won't have completely rooted in the pot yet, so I'll get it out right here. Yep, see the roots are coming out. That looks good. Then mix the potting soil in with the native soil so it's not an abrupt transition. That way it won't get root bound. Now I'll get some of this debris as mulch. That'll help it retain moisture. Give it a nice drink. I'm going to make a post on the Utah Redwood survey group asking anybody who comes up here to water these, but I'm still going to give it as much as I can now. And hopefully when I come back here, this will be larger and doing well. And by the end of the century, hopefully it'll look like that. Spring turns to summer, and the hot Utah sun beats down. Now we return to the Farmington Creek Trail, where I have most of my trees, to care for them until they are big and strong enough to survive on their own. I'm going to pull these all off the cage because it's not worth it, but I wish I disconnected them all from the base, so that will stop them from devouring this tree. So this one's taken off a lot this year. This is a Hazel Smith giant sequoia. It took a while to get here, but they grow really fast once established. And right here is where the new growth started here in 2024. So it's grown, I'd say, definitely over a foot. I gotta put these gloves on for this because I don't want to miss a swing and accidentally almost chop my finger off like I almost did that one time. So these blackberry vines grow very fast and they are very aggressive. This is a mild case, but I gotta trim these back, otherwise they will eat this tree. they sold it for a couple weeks. I have a literal sword and I use it for weeding. How glamorous. Now, come follow me back here. Let's see one of the biggest and most hidden ones. Mind the branches. Now this is a powder blue giant sequoia planted in 2019. It was less than half this size, and by this time next year, it'll probably be taller than I am. For reference, I am 6'2". There is where I fill up my watering can to water my trees. And there we go. In a few years, hopefully, this one will root down to the creek, so I won't have to water it so much anymore. Though, at least I don't have to worry about watering that one. It's been flooded almost completely twice, but it always bounces back. This is a Martin cultivar coast redwood, a species they said would not grow in Utah, but it's doing pretty well and has so far not been damaged by the winter cold. Other water source, this is a tributary of the creek that runs underneath the trail. This is a dawn redwood. Unfortunately, the main stem here broke off at this point in the winter, and it's regrown, say, over 2 feet since then. It's also the thirstiest of the redwoods, so just gonna give it some water. This is Farmington's largest and oldest coast redwood. I planted it all the way back in 2018. So now in 2024, it has survived 6 Utah winters so far. Unfortunately, it is only about as tall here as it was in 2022, maybe a little shorter. Because in February of that year, somebody cut it down at the base, and all this you see is new growth since then. But at least it has come back. And thanks to my good friend Pauline Seidel at Crowfoot Nursery, there are now clones of it growing throughout the trail. So no matter what happens to this one, its legacy will live on. Hopefully within a few years, it will be tall enough that I will be able to register it as Utah's state champion coast redwood. I have named it Aorman Seal after the reconstructed Old English name of the world tree. Caring for these trees through the hot summer is hard, but the biggest danger to them is not weeds or blackberry vines, not summer drought or heat, nor winter cold and ice, but other human beings. Some people have trampled the trees while picking blackberries. The city has mowed some over, even after they agreed not to. I've also found them pulled up or broken. But the biggest and worst disaster was in February 2022. One day, I found that some murderous vandal had cut dozens of them at the base, including many of the largest and most valuable. I don't think I've ever felt more rage in my life than on that day. It felt like the hundreds of hours and dollars I've spent on this project were for nothing. It still makes me angry to think about, and I still miss many of those trees. I do not know the motive for this, though perhaps it's the same criticism that I have to refute all the time, that I should not be planting redwoods in Utah because they are non-native. First of all 3 species, or at least their very close relatives, have known fossil records in or near Utah in the geologically recent past within the last 6 million years. Any more recent fossils would probably have been destroyed by glaciers, but I believe it's likely that there were wild redwood forests in Utah within the last 2 million years. From this perspective, they are a long-lost native that is returning home. Secondly, redwoods are not harmful to the ecology. They do not reproduce easily, so they cannot become invasive, nor are they harmful to the species that are already here. In fact, in the wild, they grow alongside many species that are native to Utah as well, such as the ponderosa pine and Douglas fir. For the redwoods in Utah to overrun Utah's ecosystems would require such change, not caused by the redwoods themselves, to make the ecosystems to be unsuitable habitats for other conifers. And in such an event, it would be better to have the redwoods than to lose the conifer forest entirely. Thirdly, the areas I plant in have already been modified by humans in much more significant ways. There are plenty of actual invasive species to remove, and the people who criticize my redwoods tend to ignore them. Lastly, there are many benefits to planting redwoods in Utah. Not only does it help safeguard the 3 species from extinction, but the trees themselves fight climate change and its effects. They remove more excess carbon dioxide from the atmosphere than other trees and sequester it for longer. They cool the earth, reduce water loss, and protect the soil with their shade and root systems. Their fire-resistant bark allows them to form barriers against bigger and more destructive wildfires and survive to help ecosystems recover faster afterwards. Their branches form habitat for wildlife. As of this time, we have yet to catch the vile culprit, but in one of the community's finest moments, dozens of people came together to fund replacements for the lost trees. My friend Polly Seidel at Crowfoot Nursery agreed to root cuttings of some of the most important murdered trees so that their genetic legacy would be preserved. As frustrating and heartbreaking as this work can be, I am glad to know that more people support it than oppose it. Soon I should no longer have to plant replacements for trees that die. I look forward to watching the ones I've planted grow larger and stronger until they no longer need my help. May they, and all the rest of Utah's redwoods, grow into giants that will outlive me by thousands of years. If you want to learn more, visit the Facebook group that gave this film its name, the Utah Redwood Survey. Thank you all.